Do you like a pasta chi sardi? Yes, pasta with sardines. I hope you do. I hope you come on in and you join me today and you join me into this wonderful cultural gastronomic history trip of the wonderful island of Guess, Sicily. Today, Sicily's coming to you, brought to you by TED Trip. TED Trip is a wonderful organisation in Sicily with a great team who cater to every need of your trip. Yes, your trip to Sicily. They do everything, whatever you need, they will cater your experience in Sicily. If you want to go fishing, you want to go cooking, you want to go hiking, whatever you want to do, and they will take you to the best destinations. And today's destination is a cultural gastronomic tour of your palate, pasta chi sardi. So come on into my kitchen and I will show you my way. And guess what? This is an ancient recipe of Sicily. But I want you to know exactly, I'm not 100% sure of how old it is, but research shows to me that it's probably from the early 1800s, so it's 1,000 years old. You got it, 1,000 years old. Yes, 1,000 years old. A wonderful, delicious recipe that your nonna, my nonna, a lot of the regions of Sicily have cooked it. It actually comes from the region of Palermo, and then it's sailed down, and there's so many places that make it differently, and then it goes to the other section of Sicily on the Messina side where they actually do it with anchovies and not sardines. So it must be the way the Tyrrhenian Sea sets in and the sardines are abundant in that region of Palermo, and then in the region of the other side, the anchovies are. Well, I hate to be a bit rude, my name is Carmela D'Amore, and I am an international award-winning Sicilian chef. I'm an international author as well. I've written 4 books, and TED Trip has asked me to do this video with my colleague Gianluca. And TED Trip has asked me and my colleague Gianluca to create pasta chi sardi. So come on into my kitchen and let's start. So here we are into my kitchen, and we're going to start with sardines. I'm going to show you some sardines. Beautiful filleted sardines. Now you can buy them whole and then you can fillet them yourself. And I've actually seen a lot of people that use very, very thin hairdressing scissors because the bones are like a hair thin fracture. And I have filleted them. Of course, we are in Australia, so we don't have an abundance like we have in Sicily of sardines. I had to get these ones in, and I will show you the ingredients that I'm going to use. Saffron, beautiful saffron, raisins, diced onion, wild fennel. I have cut them all up, and some people don't use tomato paste, some people use sauce. So I'm just going to use just a little bit of sun-dried tomato paste. I'm actually going to I've got some blood oranges that I've grated. And my herb for this dish is mint. I'm going to use a beautiful mint. And I have done a little bit of a concoction, and this is my stuffing. I used some fennel, in my stuffing. I cooked it up and fried it, and I had some breadcrumbs, and I put some pine nuts and a bit of mint and a bit of saffron, and I fried it, and I'm going to show you what I did with the sardine. You have to use, no, you don't have to use, you can use whatever you like, but I had some old breadcrumbs, and I toasted some old breadcrumbs in my frying pan and made it nice and crunchy, and I toasted some pine nuts. The reason why I toasted the pine nuts have their own flavour and they have their own oil, and when you toast them, it releases the endorphins and the oil, which gives it a very intense, more flavour, and it makes it just a little bit, your palate gets a gastronomic taste. So this recipe, as I said, it's over 1,000 years old, but the thing is, it's also a bridge between two cultures. We have the beautiful influence of the pine nuts and the saffron and the raisins, and that is part of the Arab influence of Sicily in that region. And I also brought, they've got the fennel, but the fennel didn't come from the Arab, it came from the Greek. So this dish is a wonderful bridge and union of how a recipe has passed through history, and it is still very much alive in the Sicilian culture, and we eat that all the time. It's very much, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's very, they have it a lot when it is around the months of March, if I believe, and the months of Father's Day, and it's something, it's a special feast. But being part of Sicily, we have a feast every day because we enjoy eating, and the recipes are just very much alive in us, and they keep us connected with our culture and with our ancestors. So you can imagine when you're making this 1,000-year-old recipe, what it does. And the pasta that is used is bucatini. So this one, I've got some beautiful curly bucatini that I'm actually going to start putting in there now. I'm going to start cooking. I'll get my oil. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the dish. I'm going to let this pasta, we're going to have it al dente. Now, you know I'm in my restaurant and my phones are going, everything's going, but I'm not ending it because I'm focused on bringing Ted Trip to you and my beautiful colleagues and friends, and I hope you're going well with your dish, Gianluca, because it'd be nice if you came here and we could do it together, or I come to Sicily next time. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to put the sardines, but I'm going to break up. Before I do that, I'm actually going to, excuse me, I'm going to put the onions, cook up the onions, and I'm going to put the raisins, just not too much. You don't want to have too much because then it just be wonderful, absolutely gorgeous. While that's going, I'm going to break the sardines and put them into the frying pan. The pasta's cooking beautifully. And it's always nice to know how old a recipe is and the origins of it. I was reading up on this beautiful, delicious recipe, and it's saying that it's from the early 800s, where a lot of the people were on their boat and they had nothing to eat, and they only had the sardines from the sea, a few raisins and pine nuts and saffron. And so saffron I'm not sure if its saffron really comes from the Arab influence. It could even be part of the Indian influence or the Sri Lankan influence as well. So as this is starting to cook, I'm going to get a little bit of the water from my pasta and I'm going to add it. So I'm going to see if I can, I'm sorry that this video is not doing too well, that you can't see me cooking, but I couldn't get anyone to assist me today. So I'm going to try and turn this video around so that you can see the pasta cooking. Look at that. I'm going to see if you can see this. It's the best thing that I can do. I apologise. So I put a little bit of that, and I'm going to add a little bit of the pine nuts as well. So in this, it's really nice to have it as simple as you can make it. So I put a little bit just to give it colour, and I'll show you. And I'm going to add a bit of the fennel. So don't add too much pine nuts, because pine nuts can end up being quite pasty. Only a few, and I toasted them, as I said. It's the best way to do it. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of the orange. So in those ingredients that I've done, I wanted you to taste Sicily with the oranges, with the pine nuts, with the fennel, with the sardines, the saffron, and the beautiful, this sauce is just beautiful. I'm actually going to turn this down. I'm waiting for the pasta. It's a really simple dish that you make. You can make it at home. It won't take you very long. All in all, it'll probably take you about 15 minutes. So if you're home from work and you don't have much, and you've just got a few ingredients, and you want to cook something very quick for your family, for your friends, for yourself, it's a great dish. Sardines are very, very high in omega-3. They have vitamin B12 as well, and they are very, very good for you. Very high in protein, as I said. I'm going to put a little bit more tomato paste, just to give it a little bit of in-depth flavour. You know, it's important that you have just that little bit of in-depth flavour. It just makes it a little bit nicer when you are about to go. Can you imagine this beautiful pasta cooking and then soaking up? So you need bucatini. I don't know if bucatini was the dish, was the pasta that they used in the early 1800s, or what kind of pasta that they actually used, depending what they had. I wouldn't even know. They probably would have just had made some dough with flour and made just a flat thing. I don't know how long that the bucatini came in. When they did come in, I apologise. This, you are going to have a gastronomic experience in just a recipe. Believe me, you will just enjoy this recipe, this pasta Sardi. That's what we call it. So hope you're doing all right in your recipe, Gianluca. And ciao everybody from TED Trip. And I hope you are going to enjoy this. As we're going to go through, I've got some little things that I've done that I really wanted to show you. Just a little bit of my own flair in this recipe. And I'm hoping that you will enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. I'm sure that you'll see that through my expression as I go to eat this at the end of this gastronomic experience with TED Trip. And now we're going to put the bucatini into this beautiful sauce that we made. Have a look at that. Bring that a little bit closer. Have a taste. Have a look at that. I'm going to put a little bit of water. You don't want it to be too dry, so always keep a little bit of the water that you cook the pasta in and let that soak into the bucatini until it's evaporated and it's soaked right into this beautiful pasta. Have a look at that. Another couple of seconds and it'll all take in. Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous. And now I'm going to put a little bit more mint into that and a bit of wild fennel just to give it a bit of colour. And that's that. Look at that. Pasta di Sardi. Look at that, beautiful. We'll come up this way. Now we're going to plate that into this beautiful Sicilian dish that I brought from Sicily. Now remember that we didn't have Parmesan cheese in those days. We used the breadcrumbs. So we toasted the breadcrumbs. And I put them in the frying pan and toasted it. So I'm going to put them like that and just break it up like that. Look at that. Now I put a little bit of the fennel on top that's on that side there. In a minute, there. A bit more fennel. Look at that. And what I did was, look at these. I stuffed these sardines with the stuffing that I used the ingredients for this pasta. You can turn it off. Stuff these sardines with the stuffing that I used the pine nuts, the fennel, the wild fennel, the raisins, the breadcrumbs, and I did a bit of fennel and cut it up and fried it how I showed you, and I rolled them and I put a bit of breadcrumbs and I fried them, and I thought that would be a lovely finish to that. So this is my dish, Gianluca and TED Trip, of a pasta di Sardi, Carmela style, but you can see a little bit of Palermo and the influence of the Arab influence that we have in the Palermo region. Isn't that absolutely delicious? So I'm going to get a fork and we're going to try it out. So this is my pasta di Sardi and we're going to try it now. My nonno used to say, quando si mangia non si parla. I think it's a bit hard because I can taste the delicious flavours of the fennel, of the pine nuts, the sardines, the sweetness of the raisins, of the blood oranges, and of the tomato paste. I didn't put any garlic in this. I didn't think it was necessary because it had already an abundance of flavour. Too much garlic, it would just ruin it. Absolutely delicious. Well, you enjoy your trip and you contact Ted Tripp on your next Sicilian adventure. Gianluca, you let me know how your pasta chi sardi went. This is Carmela D'Amore from Australia, award-winning international Sicilian chef, coming to you in this wonderful gastronomic experience with Ted Tripp. Arrivederci. Ciao.